Money Matters
On afternoons with Helen Farmer.
with Zurich Life Insurance. Take optimistic action and shape your financial future with Zurich Life Insurance.
Dubai Eye 103.8.
Here to answer your questions this afternoon, talking about saving for a rainy day. We don't want to leave Dubai. Well, I don't want to leave Dubai ever, but when and if I do, I don't want to do that with an empty bank account, especially in the current market. And I know a lot of people struggling right now with an uncertain job market, certainly living expenses not getting any cheaper. And here to answer all of your questions about insurance is Simon Price. He's the head of market management and Middle East at Zurich. And you can get in touch with us on 4001 using that ARN Play app. Phone lines are open to 048715500. And of course, I know some of these issues, whether you're talking about money or health, can be personal and private. So by all means, message us anonymously. We just want to make sure you get the answers that you need. Simon, how are you? How was summer?
I'm great. Thank you. And even better, it's slowly cooling down. I'm looking forward to the winter.
Oh, me too. Although my walk from the car to the office this morning was thinking, is it really almost October? It's feeling decidedly June-like out there. But we are talking about saving for a rainy day. And I think, speaking personally, an awful lot of reluctance, I think, from people when it comes to sorting out their insurance, because we don't like to think about the worst case scenario. We kind of think that that's going to be a problem for, well, like future Helen. So what we're talking about this afternoon is addressing those people who might be starting out in life, you know, maybe recently married or single and want to get their affairs in order, or people much like myself, you know, 30s, 40s, 50s and beyond, who want to take control of their family's future, but perhaps don't really know where to start. So we're really talking about all things life insurance and how it can give you financial peace of mind. And one of the things people have asked a lot is about the difference between health insurance and life insurance. Can you clarify that? Because I know an awful lot of people here listening would find that really useful.
Yeah, sure. That's a very common misconception. I think the easiest way to think about it is health insurance is really there to pay for your medical bills when bad things happen. And I think that's obviously really important. It's not the line of business that we're in. There's many other companies in Dubai that can help you with that. However, what we do, particularly where the things kind of look very similar, is in the critical illness space. What we're trying to do is, if somebody then is unfortunate to get something like cancer, where our policies can actually help is when they leave the hospital, when they have extra expenditure outside of the medical bills, such as if they can't work the same after their treatments, if they need to reorganize their kind of home and living and these different elements. So really where we get that kind of misconception is really our critical illness plans, where we're trying to help people protect themselves after they've got better and they've actually medical insurance has paid for their fees within the hospital. So you can almost think about it as it's the extra risk that somebody will have once they leave the hospital and then at home, and what they then need to be protected for once they have got better. So really that's where we see our critical illness plans really playing a key role in people's lives.
I think that's a really important point. And again, no one likes to think about getting a life-threatening or life-changing diagnosis. And when someone does get that, it's emotionally devastating, but it can be financially crippling as well. We know life-saving treatments, medication, surgeries are expensive, and often people trying to deal with that, the reality of trying to pay for it. Can you tell us, Simon, some of the illnesses here that you've seen in the region that have really affected a family's bank account when they're trying to process that devastating news?
Well, look, I mean, we publish our statistics of what we see here in Dubai and Qatar and Bahrain. And the statistics I'm going to be talking about now are the people here. They're not a global statistic or one from the UK or the US. These are people who live and work here in the UAE. And if you're looking at that, you know, the most common cause for us is around heart attack. That's about 43%. And about 27% are cancer. And I think what's in that kind of dynamic, there's also a massive swing between gender. You know, what we're seeing is the prevalence of critical illness in females. Almost 85% of our claims are actually from cancer for females, and about 53% from heart attack for males. So we are seeing those as prevalent risk. It's worth talking about COVID, by the way. COVID actually made up about 5% of our claims last year. But the main risk still pertain around heart attack and cancer that is really hurting people in terms they are. And I think the key thing I really want to say is, as a person who's rapidly getting into their mid-40s, our average age of claimant for a critical illness such as cancer or heart attack is only 49. So one of the things is a lot closer than what people think. Now, we all hope everybody has a very healthy and long life, but however, these risks do pertain to you and your lifestyles.
Simon with us this afternoon through until 4 o'clock. So if you do have any questions relating to life insurance, critical illness cover, please do get in touch. I've got some questions regarding exactly how you claim. Alexa wants to know about treatment expenses that are not covered by a health plan. Can Zurich help out with that? And Joji, great question, saying, I'm 36 years old. I've saved up about 40,000 dirhams. How is life insurance a better saving scheme than anything else? We're coming to those next.
Money Matters
On afternoons with Helen Farmer.
with Zurich Life Insurance. Take optimistic action and shape your financial future with Zurich. Money Matters
On afternoons with Helen Farmer.
with Zurich Life Insurance. Take optimistic action and shape your financial future with Zurich Life Insurance.
Dubai Eye 103.8.
Taking all of your questions this afternoon is Simon Price. He is the head of market management Middle East at Zurich, as we talk about not just saving for a rainy day, but making sure that you and your family's future is in good shape. So please do get any questions or queries in on 4001. The app, of course, is there for you, and you don't need to put your name on if you would prefer not to. I totally understand that some of these issues can feel personal and private, so if that's what's holding you back, don't worry. Great question from Martha earlier, Simon, saying, do you have COVID cover? If someone loses their job due to the pandemic, for example, or if a freelancer gets COVID and doesn't get paid for the days they're quarantining or being treated in hospital. You mentioned earlier 5% of your claims when it came to that critical illness cover were because of COVID. Can you clarify that for anyone? Because it's still very much part of the landscape in people's planning.
Yeah, no, sure. I think when I was talking about COVID, it's really what we do is really cover people's who die as a result of COVID complications. And when I talk about the claims that we paid, which is almost $4 million over the last year, it's really about deaths that are caused by COVID rather than things like loss of employment. So what we do as a life insurer, we don't cover things like loss of employment as a result of that. But however, if complications happen and somebody is unfortunate to pass away from such a disease, then we would be paying out accordingly. So unfortunately, in Martha's case, it's not something we would cover as a life insurer. That would actually be in the general insurance space, not actually the life insurance space. So, but if you are worried about the risks that are associated with that, I think the key thing for me is we're not excluding anything around COVID within our clauses or anything like that. If you do die from such a disease, then we will pay out.
Simon, a really good question here. Anonymous on 4001 saying, what happens if you cannot afford to pay your monthly premiums? What does the fine print say? Can you shed some light on that? I alluded to earlier, a lot of financial insecurity, job insecurity right now. And certainly I would always advise cutting costs elsewhere before you start looking at some of these essential payments. But if worse comes to worse and you can't afford to pay those monthly payments, what happens?
Yeah, look, this happened very regularly, particularly during the lockdown and during the first kind of emergence of the pandemic. And look, I think the key thing I'd always say to people is we can create forms of flexibility within the contracts to try and find the best way to keep those contracts alive for you in terms of them still keeping you on cover. That may be about reduction of cover for a while. It may be giving some kind of premium holidays and so on and so forth. I think ultimately, we extended our kind of period of time in terms of when people could take a break from paying premiums and still be on risk and so on and so forth. So there is a degree of flexibility we can give. Obviously, if we don't get any premiums, ultimately, obviously, we can't be given the cover. But what I would say to those people who are going through those kind of periods, please give us a call, phone our help, as we call it, the help point in terms of our kind of call centre, and then let's discuss what flexibilities we can help you through that situation. I
think that's a really valid point. And when we've been having our conversations in the past about people finding themselves in, credit card debt or, worrying about big financial holes they have, the advice we've had from experts time and time again is tell the bank. Ultimately, we have a tendency to kind of fear financial institutions and companies, and that shouldn't be the case. Ultimately, we hope that we can all work together. In the case of a bank, they want to be getting that money back from a loan. In your case, you want to make sure people are covered. So I think that's really valid, Simon, just to remind people to reach out, get in touch, share that situation and see if something can be reached. Moody's here, great question here on 4001. Thank you, sir, saying, is having life insurance a plus when you're taking out a housing loan? I've got life insurance with Zurich and plan to buy an apartment in Dubai. Presumably that does smooth it all through a bit faster.
Look, I think when people look at life insurance, the first time they tend to come in contact with our products is when they have bought a property, and congratulations on the individual on their new home. But really, when you think about what that is doing, it's really paying the bank back. So if the individual passes away who has the loan, it's then just paying the bank back. What I would say to people is obviously you need to think about it more. If you have dependents, if you have children, the loss of income that won't be there when you do pass away, and so on and so forth, it's still something you'd have to cover. So I think when you're looking at the mortgage, the banks will obviously want that as part of the contract and want that to be able to get the loan. However, your need for life insurance may be greater. And I think that's also worth a conversation, thinking about, well, what would happen if I do get critical illness, or what would happen if I do pass away? That'll definitely be more than just paying back the mortgage or loan that you owe to the bank. So it's always an important part. We put in lots of aids to help people expedite that process to make sure they can get into their dream home. But what I would say about life insurance is there are more things on top of that people would need to help make sure they're fully protected.
And not just that, but, in that awful process of grief and working through paperwork to make sure that money isn't another cause of distress. Think about your loved one. And I don't think my husband's listening, but he's worth an awful lot more money dead than he is live. So don't point any fingers at me should the worst happen. 4001 for any questions for Simon Price with us this afternoon. You mentioned earlier in terms of average ages of claimants, I thought was really interesting. So life benefits claims is 52. Critical illness benefits is just 49 years old. But presumably premiums are cheaper. It's easy to purchase that additional cover when you're young and healthy. But what is a realistic minimum age? Most people get their first proper salary job in their early 20s. And I know I wasn't spending my salary on life insurance then. What would you think is a realistic time to kind of dip your toe in it and start putting your big girl and boy pants on?
Well, look, I think everybody's very different. I know myself, when I was in my 20s, I was busy running around the world, working in different countries, and it's not really something I thought about until later in my life. I think it's those kind of real key points at the moment. I think marriage is a real important time when people want to start thinking about their longevity. Obviously, the important thing, if you do get your policies early in your life and you do contract something later, your premiums aren't going to go up as a result if you've got a level term policy. So getting it early is better. But however, I don't think it really comes to the agenda for most people until they are getting married, until they have children. And I think in life that's different for everybody. But what we do see quite common is that kind of early 30s position that we see here locally. But everybody's different in their kind of own endeavours. And I know myself personally, it wasn't high on my agenda in my 20s. I probably wish it was, but I probably got around to it in my kind of 30s when I kind of settled down a bit more and being a bit more sensible.
Hindsight. I'm like, I should have bought a house when I was 22 for like 20p. What was younger Helen thinking? It's your last chance to get in touch with Simon Price. He's the head of market management at Zurich Middle East. 4001 with any questions, any queries, any confusion that you might have to do with life insurance. We're going to talk about some jargon next. Whole life, term life, universal life. What do they all mean? And a great question from Mansi saying, if I decide to go back to my home country, can I keep paying premiums from there? Will my terms change? Simon taking that for you next.
Money Matters
On Afternoon.